I always tell people that you're more capable than you think you are.
Be original. Don't be like the guy on the radio. Great music will prevail. So I would tell people, make great music. Don't make other people's music. Make your own.
Money don't make me, so I just say, you know what? I just gotta be happy in my life. Build your team. Look around you. Figure out all these parts, because you can't do it all yourself. You're gonna burn out and get tired.
Never burn any bridges. You never know who someone's gonna be.
I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer.
Welcome back to the Indie Playbook presented by Focused Noise. I'm your host, Eric Abel, and this is episode 6. If you've enjoyed what you've heard so far, make sure you subscribe on the podcast app or TuneIn or Stitcher. And there's also more episodes you could check out at focusednoise.com. So one of the reasons I've really loved doing this show is having the opportunity to dig deep with music professionals and artists who followed their own visions and paved their own paths. And you'll find similarities among many of my guests, but one of the qualities that most of them possess is that they're multifaceted. Because in the independent world, you often need to learn to do it all. Today's guest is no different. Thomas Cussins, who's been one of my favorite promoters to work with over the past few years, is the co-founder of Ineffable Music Group, which manages acts such as Collie Buddz, Hieroglyphics, Cunning Linguists, and Stick Figure, who's also managed personally by Thomas. Cussins is also the head talent buyer for the Catalyst in Santa Cruz, California, the Mystic Theater in Petaluma, and since our interview, he's also taken over the Cornerstone in Berkeley and the Fremont Theater in San Luis Obispo. And he also produces the Levitate Music Festival just outside of Boston. We conducted this interview live from the bar upstairs in the Catalyst in Santa Cruz, so you hear some people enjoying themselves in the background. And there's a little bit of technical difficulties at the very beginning, but just bear with me, I promise, because you'll get so many great lessons from this episode. And Thomas breaks down the business in a way that's so digestible and detailed and transparent, so take his advice and run with it. And as you'll hear, Thomas reminds us over and over of the importance of taking chances and making mistakes. Having achieved success as both a manager and a talent buyer, Cussins offers a unique perspective. This episode is a must-hear for anyone looking to stand out from the crowd as an artist, manager, promoter, or entrepreneur. So enjoy this episode with Thomas Cussins. How did you start at the Catalyst? Were you in college when you started, or was it right after?
Yeah, man, the Catalyst has got great history. You know, it's been here for 35 years. I'm only the second talent buyer here at the club. Last guy had the job for over 30 years. And I went to UC Santa Cruz, started at the Catalyst as an intern. Wasn't getting paid anything. I was working the back gate. Started throwing a dance party in the main room, and eventually worked my way into the talent buying office, where I assisted Gary, who was the talent buyer before me, assisted him for a good chunk of time. And I left there, went and worked at Paradigm, a booking agency, and realized that that's the worst job for me. Because you're totally removed from the actual music business. You're removed from the concert itself and the creation of music.
Right.
You know, when you're booking the show, selling the product, right? You're in a room. You're just talking to people on the phone and on email. You're not actually like here. If I'm buying a show, I'm at the Catalyst right now, so I'm gonna be here when the show's happening. I get to be part of the show. If you're selling the show, you're removed from that, and it kind of made me feel like I was just working a job instead of working a career. So I got an amazing amount of experience at Paradigm. It's a phenomenal company. But left there and came back, and luckily the position here opened up. And this club is so great because it's far enough away from San Francisco that that it doesn't conflict. So we get a lot of shows the day before, the day after San Francisco. And it's also a good change of pace for people if they don't want to hit the major markets, if they just want to hit smaller cities. So we're able to get a lot of amazing acts through, and actually, we're about, according to Polestar, we're in the top 40 of clubs in the entire country.
Wow,
Yeah.
That's great for a small market.
It's a blessing.
And were you at the Monterey office at Paradigm?
I helped a gentleman named Pincus set up a Austin, Texas office.
Oh, okay.
Pincus is one of the booking agent legends. He's a madman, and I say that in the best possible way. Works 18 hours a day and books over 1,000 shows a year just by himself. So he goes in.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Who gave you your first opportunity here at the Catalyst? Was that Gary?
Yeah. Well, actually. I really gotta give it up to Gary, and there's a gentleman by the name of Eddie Dees who was here, and they broke my balls a little bit, but I said I want to throw a show, and they finally, I bugged them enough that they finally let me do my own show. And my first show when I was still in college, was Kill a Priest from the Wu-Tang Clan.
Nice. In
the front room. Great dude, and I stood up on campus and I was selling tickets, hand to hand. The kids walking by, just had a boombox and was playing music and just hustling tickets. And then the second show was Murs in the main room. That was my first main room show, Murs from Living Legends. And I remember just being so worried. He was like half an hour late. And I was like, oh, man.
Seems like the end of the world, right?
Is he not going to go? What's going to happen? He looked at me and said, oh, man, you got that anxious promoter face. I was like, I know.
It's your second show.
Yeah.
I had that when I was in college. My first show I threw was Dougie Fresh, and it was running late, and he's in the bathroom. So everyone's freaking out, like, go in there and get him. And I'm like, I got to go in the bathroom and get him now. And I'm like, are you ready? And he's like, I'm taking a shit. And that was like that's like my first experience dealing with that stress and anxiety when it's not even a big deal at all. So do you think it was just your persistence at the beginning that got you in the door?
Yeah, I mean, I was willing to do the stuff nobody wanted to do, I would drive a band at 2 a.m., I'd pass out flyers all day. I actually thought about it recently. I think in my career, I've passed out at least 500,000 flyers personally.
That's solid.
I still believe that's the number one way to create awareness about a show. Like, come see my show. Here it is,
Right.
So yeah, I mean, it was that, and also just actually caring. It was clear to me really quickly that this is what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I threw myself fully into it. And I think in the music business, because it's so fun, a lot of people want to do it. And since a lot of people want to do it, on average, you're going to get paid less than something else. I mean, basic economics, right?
Right.
So I think the only way to really make it work in the music business if you're all in. If it's your side project and it's for fun, then let it be that. But everybody I met, be it artist or on our side of the coin, if you're not all in, it doesn't usually work out well.
Right. Out of 100 people you meet coming through the doors who want to work in this business, about how many do you think last for more than 2 years?
Man, well, I can actually look at my company at Ineffable, because we've had over 150 people work at the company now.
Wow.
And I'd say probably about 18 of them are still in the business. So, these are people that have gone through. So out of 100 people walking in the door, 5, 6, 7 people
Right.
can.
Right. What do you think the biggest lesson was that Gary taught you when you started here?
That's actually a really easy one for me. Gary's biggest lesson was never burn any bridges.
Okay.
You never know who someone's going to be. And I've tried, sometimes it's hard, but I've tried to keep that with me all the time. Because if I'm talking to an assistant, at an agency, or I'm talking to a small agent or like an indie promoter, somebody just calling me out of the blue that's making mistakes, and I just, the instinct might be like, dude, come back when you want to handle shit right. But that person may end up signing the next hugest act, right? And they may be somebody you need, and you're begging for something down the road. So even if you got to turn somebody down, do it with class and remember that they're hustling.
Right. And it really can't hurt you to just be nice to people. It's,
Yeah. Absolutely.
So what was the biggest mistake you made while trying to get people in the industry to notice you?
Well, I made a lot of mistakes, so
That's all
I'm gonna
right.
have to think about the biggest one. But I will say this: like the way that I approach the business is that I'm not afraid to make mistakes. I run fast. So if I fuck up, I try to just not make that same mistake twice, because the definition of insanity is repeating the same action and expecting a different result.
Right.
So if I make a mistake, and it happens way more in management than in booking, because booking's kind of cut and dry. It's numbers, right? You sell enough tickets, you're doing good. Like, it's very easy to see if you did a good job or not, right? The number of tickets that were sold.
Right.
Whereas management, there's no one right way to manage an act. There's just lots of wrong ways. So I consistently make mistakes in management, I think, like picking the wrong room to play, picking the wrong record label. I mean, releasing records is, it's like the Wild West, So
yeah.
But in terms of mistakes of people trying to get people to notice me, I'd say I have to come back to that one.
Okay. Is there one thing that they didn't teach you in school that you'll make sure to teach your daughter?
Yeah, I guess I never learned how to do things in school. I just learned about stuff. Mm-hmm. And I think it's really important to, learn how to do things. Like, how do you make something? Like, it's all well and good to know facts and to understand thinking, but the jobs in the real world is based on being able to complete, based on results. Mm-hmm. So I think following through with a task and actually completing it, whatever it may be, is probably the thing I'm gonna focus in on with my kids.
I think that's good advice. What initially attracted you to hip hop culture?
Probably marijuana.
Okay.
No, I mean, I went to school in Boston. I went to 3 different high schools, but one was in Boston, and it was like, it was pretty gnarly school. I get there was like the Latin Kings there, and like Haitian gangs, all sorts of different gangs, and the way I kind of survived that was just by smoking a lot of weed and hanging out with people who were smoking a lot of weed. And you smoke weed and you want to listen to music, and stuff like Cunning Linguists and Atmosphere and that kind of stuff. That was my first introduction to the culture of hip hop. Now, my first hip hop record, was there's 3 actually. It was Wu-Tang, 36 Chambers, Tribe Called Quest, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and the Fugees, The Score. So those 3 albums, like when I was younger, I listened. That was my first kind of introduction, and Common, like Water for Chocolate. But really, in terms of diving into the culture, it was more about that hanging out with my crew, smoking and listening to that kind of music. Some of those guys like Brother Ali were coming up, and Immortal Technique and Hyro and Living Legends and Jedi Mind Tricks and Nonfiction and all that. I mean, just the fact that I get to work with Cunning Linguists, even though Matt in my office manages them, but I get to work with them at the company, and I used to listen to those guys every day. I mean, so that's a huge blessing.
That's dope. So moving forward, how did you make the transition into management?
It's an accident. I was renting apartments to pay for college, and rented one to a guy who was like, "Yeah, I'm good at music. I got a lot of friends, but I can't get a show." I just thought, hey, how hard can it be to get a show?
Right.
I found out it was pretty difficult, but that was kind of the foray. And a guy by the name of Almighty Aziz here in Santa Cruz, who was actually killed by the police later in Santa Clara.
Wow.
That's just crazy shit. But yeah, I mean, I had a few false starts with that, but really the first big break was getting the opportunity to work with Collie Buddz. We brought him out here for his first shows. They went really well. He was just a down-to-earth, normal dude. That really hit me. And he had just been dropped by Sony, and their whole business had been based around records and selling records. So what are they going to do now? So I flew out to New York on a whim, met with Dino, who was at A&R at Sony, and found Collie, and he had actually signed Cash Money. Industry legend. And I said, Dino, let me join your team, man. I got this idea. We're going to tour. We're going to play shows. We're going to sell merch. And that's that. I'll handle that side of things. And to his credit, here's a guy that 100% was in the record industry, and just his whole business was based on traditional record business, right? Shows were something to promote the record,
Right.
and yet 10 years ago he had the foresight to see that touring and merchandise would be the next thing. And so he gave a kid straight out of school with very little experience the chance to run with it. And so we went out. I booked the shows myself. I fucking did everything with the transportation, the whole A to Z, me and my partner Igor. And it was a success. It was crazy. You don't want to play. I booked 2 shows within 30 miles of each other.
Right.
I didn't know anything about spacing out markets or anything like that yet. But
Yeah.
and then slowly through that over the years, I got to be more involved in the other side of things. Then now the project which is so exciting for me and is doing really well is Stick Figure.
I wanna go home, I wanna go home. Back to the way it was.
And right when I left Paradigm, right around the same time I was getting the job at the Catalyst, an agent friend of mine said, you got to check out this guy. He's put out 5 records by himself. He wrote everything. He performed everything. He's done everything. He never toured. Now he's just starting to do some tour dates. You got to check him out. And I'd never heard of him, and I found that strange because ever since Collie, the reggae scene, the American reggae scene had really been my thing, and I dove into it fully. Promoting shows with guys like Revolution, in basements with 50 people there. Guys that are like them, then now selling 10,000 tickets out here, right? So the fact that I hadn't heard of him was really surprising to me. And flew out and saw him again, like Collie. He was just a normal dude. It's no crazy ego, nothing like that. Just a somebody that likes to make music, normal guy you can hang out with, got a business mind on it, on him. And he gave me his record, the most recent one, which again he produced fully by himself. I took it home, put it in my car, and listened to it 83 times in a row.
Wow.
And I called him up. I was like, dude, we got to meet. We got to do this. The guy had never had a manager, had barely done any shows, but he had sold. He had a fan base just from releasing good music. And I was excited that people in the industry didn't know him yet, because I was like, people don't know you yet, but the people that do love you. So that means there's that much bigger market to grow. It's not like some people know you, everybody knows you, and some people like you, and some people are like, eh. Right. It was the people that knew him loved him, but not that many people knew him yet. So there was a lot of market space to go after. And the funny thing is that completely changed the paradigm in my head of what it had been. I had always thought you go tour and you grind it out, and that's how you make fans, right? By the shows.
Right.
And here was somebody that flipped that on its head and had been just cultivating a base, completely independently. No label, no nothing, no marketing dollars, no team, no anything. Just by putting out music that connected with people.
Right.
So there was a base there, and there was a demand there. And so when we started touring, there was a hungry, start to go after, right? It wasn't just we're starting from scratch. It
Right.
was there was demand there. And then we were able to tour and, create some discovery as well. You know, and now his most recent album, which was the first one I was involved in, you know, it's been out for 42 weeks now, and it's been in the top 10 on Billboard Reggae all 42 weeks. You know, it's still currently sitting at number 4, and it's 42nd week out. You know, and you know, that doesn't mean as much as it used to be in the top 10 in Billboard Reggae, but it's a testament to his to you know, really taking the time to consider every element and make a record that will connect with people on so many levels.
Right.
And getting out there and supporting it, you know, and grinding. I mean, he worked for 2 years straight every single day, no off days, no nothing. So it was great to finally get that out.
Right. And yeah, I want to come back to that, but I wanted to go back to Collie Buddz. I'd read on the internet, something that said that you'd promised you would generate $100,000 for him, and basically you just went out and did it. It reminded me, there's a Ralph Waldo Emerson quote that's really good. It says, if you make a decision, the universe conspires to make it happen. And I've always kind of felt like, you know, you put yourself out there, and if you work hard enough going in a certain direction, you know, the results might not be exactly how you envision, but I do feel like you can create something out of it. And you know, the universe does make space for you to make that happen. I mean, is that story true, or is that a little exaggerated, or is that exactly?
I can't believe you found that. I don't know where that is, but that's that first tour. I did promise that. I had no idea how I was going to deliver it.
Right.
But I said, you know, you will net $100,000 to the bottom line over this tour, and you know, we got there. We did it.
I mean, that's exactly like I still, you know, do stuff like that to this day. Like, you know, an artist needs a certain amount of money to go out, and you know, you just know you have to deliver it. So, you know, you can't make empty promises, but, you know, knowing what you can do, you kind of have to put it out there and go make it happen.
Yeah, I do. I will say I prefer not to do that.
Okay.
In the future.
Right. So, I mean, with Stick Figure, building it more from the ground up, is that more rewarding to be a part of that from the beginning and just watch it grow, especially since that was your first time kind of doing that?
I won't say more rewarding, but there is a certain satisfaction in seeing that happen from the ground up. Absolutely. I mean, you know, they're you know, the both opportunities of working with both artists have been phenomenal, you know, for different reasons. But yeah, I mean, when you start working with a guy whose best shows are $3,000 and 2 years later you're getting $50,000 offers, I mean, it's like,
it's amazing.
That feels really good, you know. And when you know, when your client can support himself by making music every day, you know, that's the American dream, right?
Right.
Like,
and when you started working with him, was he working like a day job or something like that?
No, he was already like fully in.
He was all in.
He was like, yeah,
right.
Exactly. Like I said earlier, right? He was all in. He's like, this is what I'm doing.
Was there anything that set him apart besides the fact that he just made good music to you?
Yeah, I mean, two things. One, you know, he has a business mind, so he was running his own business, you know, fully A to Z. And two, you know, he's a producer, and that's the same thing with Collie.
Right.
They're both producers. So, you know, he's playing the drums, he's playing the keys, he's playing the guitar. Like, on that record, it's all him.
Right.
And I mean, Collie will work with a lot of producers, but some of the best tracks he's made, he's produced himself too. So
right.
Having that studio wherewithal to go in there and create what you want, like, that's I think that's super unique.
Do you think you can create talent in the musical space with a lot of hard work, or do you think that's just an ability you're born with?
There's definitely, you can definitely create enough to take yourself to another level. I think there is, like, I have no musical chops whatsoever. Like, I could spend 1,000 hours, 10,000 hours working in the studio, I would still suck. I know it, right? I don't have that natural ear. My ear works like this: either it's a hit, or it's good, or it sucks. Like, I could tell 3 levels of stuff. But
right, but you've got the ear to at least know what's good and what's not good, right?
Right, but I would never be able to. I can only do that with the finished product, right?
Right.
Like, these, you know, I think you have to have some level of ear, you know, to some level of just some level of talent off top. But I do think there's a lot to be said about, the 10,000 hours thing. Like, I did a lot of early shows with Macklemore, and, that guy put in his time.
Yeah, he did.
He was supporting Hyro dates of ours, and just out there hustling by him behind the merch table.
Yeah.
He put in that time, and it took a long time.
Yeah, we played shows with him in front of 70 people,
Right.
It's crazy to see.
Yeah.
And Aloe Black was another one. I remember playing a show with him where it was only people performing at the show.
Amazing talent.
Yeah.
Amazing talent.
So can you get a little bit more into how Ineffable's structured? And, you said that different people in your company manage the different artists. Did you guys kind of come together as a partnership from the beginning, or how did it work?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of people through the years, but my partner Igor, we went to school together here at Santa Cruz. We've been kind of the core of the company since 2006 when we started, and the structure is really threefold. There's a management division, a talent buying division, again like booking, buying shows for clubs. Or festivals, and then there's like a production division, which is producing festivals, producing events, where you're an independent promoter. So that's maybe, for example, we produce a festival outside of Boston called Levitate, and that's like, for that festival we're A to Z. Like, yeah, I'm the talent buyer, but the company is fully involved in putting on every aspect of that, from booking the porta potties to to building the ticketing site,
What are the new challenges you're finding in putting a festival together?
I think the festival space is really saturated at the moment. There's been a huge wave of new festivals coming to the fore. Yeah, the big companies, the Live Nations and AEGs, have been going after festivals left and right. And I think what we'll see is, as there's so many more, people are going to start, and they are starting to pick and choose which ones they go to. So we're seeing a lot flop. And so you're seeing more bands, more agencies require 100% deposits on these festivals. You're seeing a lot of stuff that's gonna, the cream of the crop's gonna rise, essentially.
Right. And some people could just lose their asses on these things.
Oh yeah, I mean, for Levitate this year, I was in Tahiti with Stick Figure the week before. Flew back. I mean, that was a whole nother story. I mean, 2 sold out shows with people that speak French and Tahitian singing along to an English reggae band.
So crazy.
I fly back and I'm feeling top of the world. Levitate sold out. I'm like ecstatic. I get into LAX waiting for my flight to Boston, and I look at the forecast and there's thunderbolts.
Oh wow.
And I mean, all those bands, the money's guaranteed.
Yeah.
Regardless of weather, right? If the weather's so bad that we have to refund people's tickets, I'm taking a $500,000 hit.
Wow.
I can't do
There's
that.
There's no rescheduling the whole festival.
Oh no, that's not happening. Yeah. So unless you're getting that headliner on, like, the level of risk is definitely, you have to be comfortable with risk across the board in this business. But festivals are the highest risk and also the highest reward, relatively speaking.
Can you buy insurance for that type of situation?
You can. It's very expensive, and you definitely can, and you should.
Right.
I think I had regular insurance, not the thunder cancellation insurance. So I think I lost about 2 years off my life for that one.
I bet.
It's not worth it.
So I just wanted to give, I guess, a little background on how I met you. I'd moved here from New York and reached out to you, and I just wanted to kind of thank you for taking the time out. You met with me out of the blue, not really knowing anything about me. You just knew that I'd moved here, and ever since, I think we probably booked a Bone Thug show within a couple weeks of that, like right away. But just working with you and Corey has been great. Like you two are both two of my favorite people that I've worked with, on the buying side. So I really appreciate it. Likewise.
Although there's still time for us to mess that up.
Yeah. Well, we can't be 100%, but but I was going to ask, you've been able to develop a lot of relationships across the board, throughout the country and throughout the world. What do you think your value proposition is that you bring to the table that makes people want to keep working with you?
Really, it's that I just try to keep a cool head about everything and try to make it work, whatever it is, right? If your show needs to happen on a certain date, like, I will not just say, no, that's not available. I will call the other band, ask if they could move, see if I'll call the other venue that the other band's playing on the day before, see if they will trade me.
Right.
You know, I just, whatever the people I do business with need, I try to make it work, even if it's not the most convenient thing for me.
Right.
So, you know, and also, you know, it's a small business. I think there's probably only 5,000 people that do what you and I do, you know, on any sort of legitimate level in the U.S.
Right.
And so it's possible to know almost all of those people, right?
Right.
And I mean, you know, every one of those, I try to find something that I can help, that every one of those people needs, that I can help deliver.
Right. That's important. I think back to the point, I mean, because I came in as an artist and a DJ and producer, so the world seemed so huge and it seemed so unattainable at that point, where it's like, how am I going to make these connections? And then once you kind of get your footholds, you're like, oh, it's not that big. Everyone seems to know each other. But for those artists who are reaching out to you kind of at the beginning, trying to get on shows, things like that, how do you recommend they approach you?
I think just direct and to the point. You know, I like one streaming link for the absolute best piece of work you've done. Because, you know, at the end of the day, like, the quality matters, right?
Right.
So, first and foremost, if you send me one specific link and it's good, even if I can't deliver on whatever you're asking for, that's filed in my head as, this is dope.
Right.
So that's first and foremost, because without the music, there's nothing. Right. Secondly, I think it's, you know who you're talking to and know what you're talking about, right? Like, check my calendar, you know, before you reach out. Say, I'd like to be submitted for this specific show on this specific date. Here's my link. Here's my last play in Santa Cruz. You know, this is why I should be booked. Like, you know, it doesn't need to be more than, you know, 5 bullet points,
right,
a sentence each, and one streaming link. You know, and that makes it easy for me. If I like what I hear, I'll send it to the agent and see if I can get it on. I mean, as a talent buyer, your hands are tied a little bit.
Right.
You know, I try to play by the rules in that way. Like, I will submit. I'm not just going to add somebody to a show without submitting it to the agency first. Right. To make sure that management is okay with that support act. But, you know, I also think, like, too many people reach out to me just because they think they need a show. And then they'll come, if they even say they made it through all those hurdles, like, I liked it, their presentation was good, I sent it, management was like, okay, that's all good, we added you to the show, and then you come and play the show and you don't have anything to sell or leave or give people when they leave. Right. Like, you know, if you're going to do a show, there has to be a reason for that. Right. And the reasons can be either making money, but if you're just starting out, that's not the reason you're doing this, obviously. Right. Or the other reason would be to try and make new fans, right? So if you perform and you got a, you know, if it's hip-hop, right, 15, 20-minute set, and those people might not, you know, they're leaving, they're walking out of that show, they came to see somebody else. Like, they need to be leaving with something in their hands. Right. If that's a flyer, if that's a sticker, if that's a piece of merchandise, you know, it's going to be interesting to see what takes, you know, the CD is on its way out. I told Stick Figure, I was like, I wonder if this is the last album we'll ever press CDs for, you know.
Might be true. I don't think I mean, my laptop doesn't have a CD player. I don't know where I'd play a CD anymore. I guess my car still does.
But the new cars don't have them. Right. Right?
Yeah.
But my whole business, and for anybody coming up, has been based on adapting to whatever the conditions are. Right. So if the record industry had been cranking and people were still selling $20 CDs and, you know, Tower Records was still open, I never would have got a chance to work with Collie Buddz. Right?
That's true.
If you know, and it's funny, it's like I came to the record industry not expecting to make any money from it. So anytime we made money from selling records, I was like, yeah, this is just extra.
Just a bonus.
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
Right? So, yeah, and, you know, now it's like we just got to stay flexible, you know? Right. Oh, festivals are hot this year, boom. Oh, this is, you know, just keep it moving. Be ready, be faster. That's the one advantage you and I have and probably anyone that's going to take the time to listen to this, we're all independent, so we can move faster than those big industries.
Right.
You know, that's pretty much the only advantage we have. We can be more nimble. We can go quicker. We can change our business model on a flash if we need to.
What are the different streams of income you rely on, like from most important to least important at this point?
Well, I mean, in the artist management division, the most important stream of revenue is the live show.
Uh-huh.
Second would probably be merchandise. And third would be, the sale of music. Fourth would generally be sync and licensing, like getting your music on a film or TV show, because that's real hit or miss.
Right.
There are occasionally acts like Hyro where merch might be first, might be above live shows.
Right.
Or there's acts like guys we worked with from San Diego for years called Vocab Company, and their number one stream of revenue is licensing because they've gotten some really big syncs, Kia commercials or Southern Comfort commercials and Stars TV promos. So it does vary, but across the board, live shows are the number one stream of revenue.
Right.
But our business is, it's based around the live experience, so that's to be expected.
Okay. Can you give one really creative example of a way an artist has branded themselves that you were really impressed with?
Yeah. Well, this isn't my client, but I'd say that one of the best brandings I've seen has been Run the Jewels.
Yeah.
That taking two artists that have had just mid-level success, journeyman type acts, and they came together and just really the whole campaign behind it from A to Z, using artists and having just these installations and art everywhere, and it was just next level. You're getting all the EDM kids paying attention. You're getting just this whole new wave of action behind the movement. That definitely stood out to me. But I think when it comes to branding, the most important thing, who knows if you're going to hit on something like that, right? There's
Right.
a lot of luck involved in that and hard work. But I think the most important thing is having consistent content, right? Because you can't always you can't play the Catalyst every week,
Right.
But you can, run a cycle and change up your promo pictures, make sure you have really good stuff there. You can make sure that you're consistently releasing content to keep your fans active.
Right.
So whenever I see a band that takes the time to be engaged with their audience, that's I know they're going after it, So consistent content, man.
Yeah. And is video the preferred method at this point?
I hesitate to say video is the preferred method because I think, you want to have your eggs in all baskets, So, yes, I think a killer music video, or just video snippets of stuff, is definitely can be a game changer for acts.
Right.
But I think what you want to do is you want to keep all your bases covered, and just keep the message consistent and keep it fresh. So, yeah, I mean, if if the same press picture has been there for the last 4 years and it's not like a high quality picture that represents everything you're doing, and you don't have any music videos, and if I Google you, the first thing that comes up is a live performance from 2012,
Right.
and there's no, nothing good for me to see in terms of new content. That speaks a lot about the movement.
It's pretty bad considering everyone has phones now. Like, you could put something together that's a little bit newer.
Yeah, and I mean, there's two schools of thought on that. One is like, only put something out if it's perfect,
Right.
and the other is, who's to say what's perfect? Just get stuff out.
Yeah.
Put it out. Put out you.
I think it depends on the image you're trying to craft, because I think some people's imagery is just so gritty and raw that they just throw stuff out there and their fans just eat it up.
Absolutely.
Have you been able to take anyone? I mean, I assume you have, but who can you give an example of someone you've been able to take under your wing, and what's the one most important thing you made sure to teach them?
Well, there's a guy named Matt Bailey, works at the company. He was an intern, went to school in Oregon, booked a Hyro show for his school, came and interned at the company in the summer, ended up dropping out of school and started work at the company, and now he's now he's running the place. Now he's the COO. I got to check in with him, you know. So, and the thing with him is that he was able to learn from all the everybody, not just me, like different things from different people. Like I might be great at some of the more boring back end stuff, whereas other people are better in the studio, you know, or good at A&R and finding the next thing. So he was able to pick stuff up off of everybody. But the thing I said is just, you got to look at the bottom line, because this is such a thin margin business, and again, because it's fun, people want to do it. It's like it is hard to make money, and so we have this luxury to get to do what we want to do every day, and a lot of people have a tendency not to think about that bottom line. But if we're not covering our nut, like, we're not going to get to do what we want to do, and we'll have to get real jobs. So I try to instill that in him early, so he now when he's looking at P&Ls and stuff, he understands that, and he understands that that in order to do this luxury, we have to spend some time with those numbers. Right.
How important is that freedom to you as a fairly new dad?
Oh, it's everything, man.
Yeah.
I think that I definitely work a lot more than if I just had a job, right? I work way more hours than that. I'm kind of never off the clock in management. In fact, I think I got some text messages while we've been on this interview that I got to handle.
Okay.
No, I mean, working harder than that, but for the freedom to do what I want to do when I want to do. Like, if I want to go on vacation, to South America tomorrow, nobody's going to say no. The catalyst just wants me to do, as long as I do my job, that's all that matters, right?
Right.
Same thing with the clients. So you have that, that freedom is, that's, to me, that's the American dream, man. That's what I've been looking for.
Okay. Do you need to answer?
Oh, no.
All right. So going back to the live show side, if you have $1,000 promotional budget for a show, what do you spend it on?
If I got the people, I want to put as much of that as possible towards flyers and posters.
Okay.
With the exception of two genres, country and Latin. So with country and Latin, I rely heavily on radio still, terrestrial radio, because that seems to be the outlet that delivers the most. But with hip-hop or with pretty much any other genre, I want flyers and posters out as much as possible. Of course, still at the club, we do a lot of print and stuff like that just to have a presence, but I don't really rely on it. We just kind of want to be consistent across all outlets, same way as an artist would be. But I'm doing a lot more social spends these days. The return you get on Facebook is not great, but you do get a return. You can actually see the return you get.
Right.
If you spend $100, you probably sold $200 of tickets.
Right.
It's not a huge return, but whereas with flyers, 5,000 flyers out in the street, you could hypothetically be selling a lot more than $200 worth of tickets with those flyers, but it's harder to track.
Right.
So yeah, Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and Google and the retarget, when you have a bigger budget.
Yeah.
The retargeting stuff is huge. That follows you around the internet as you go.
Right.
But that doesn't work on a $1,000 budget. You got to have more than that.
And how does that work? I mean, I see it obviously if I click on some site, looking at a T-shirt or something, and then it just keeps popping up in my Facebook feed. How does that work? How do you set that up with them?
It's just called retargeting, and that's I hire somebody to do that.
Right.
And we do that for festivals, or we'll do that for an album campaign. But it's hard to do that for an individual club show, because usually the guys that do it, it's normally when we have a 10,000 or higher budget, we'll start having that conversation
Right.
for a specific event.
Okay.
But whereas, with the Facebook campaign, it's like a normal show, like with $1,000 budget, 300 of that is going to Facebook and Instagram.
Right.
Maybe an extra 50 or 100 to Google with like a few shows all at once on some Google AdWords.
Okay. That's helpful. So I wanted to get into your routines a little bit. How regimented are you? Do you have like a morning routine that you get going that gets your day going, anything like that?
Yeah, coffee.
Coffee? So you wake up, first thing you do is make coffee?
No, I have a young daughter, so she likes to wake up first.
Does she jump on you and wake you up?
Yeah, I think a couple mornings ago, she jumped into bed and she was like, "Daddy, it's nighttime. Put your head back on your pillow and go to sleep." I was like, "Okay, all right, bossy."
Yeah.
But no, I mean, yeah, my morning is coffee. I try to get, either if I'm taking my daughter to school or whatever, and I try to get out as quickly as I can. And but then, some mornings I'm traveling. Some mornings I like to, get cranked through the first wave of emails. From my breakfast table. But yeah, I try to get to the office as early as possible. I'd say on a standard day, I'm in my office in Emeryville, 10 to 7. It's kind of my normal work day.
Yeah.
So, and now I try to at least keep Sundays sacred as much as I can,
Yeah.
Just have that one day I could just be with the fam and not be working. But it doesn't always work out that way, and that's the nature. That's the price for the freedom, right?
Right. Yeah, you always have to have your phone present. And
Mm-hmm.
do you have any like exercise routine or anything you eat to try to stay healthy? I know it's just so easy to get wrapped up in the, eating bar food and whatever's around.
Man, I gotta work on that, man. I love playing basketball
Me too.
for exercise, but ever since our hoop we had a hoop at the office and it got destroyed, so we got to get a new one in there because my exercise is really slacking without the hoop back
The
there.
one down in the venue that you had?
Oh no!
Or in the office
we got
up
one
there.
at the Catalyst too,
Yeah.
but at my office I got one in the back.
Yeah.
And so
It's a good idea. Put a basketball hoop everywhere you are.
well, the one dream that I have not achieved yet, in terms of like broad overarching dreams of getting to live my life how I want to live, is to have my own indoor basketball court at my own office.
That is next level.
So yeah, one day you come back in 5 years, 10 years, I'm gonna have that.
That's your one goal, huh?
Yep.
Do you have any other goals that you set like annually or every 6 months or things like that you kind of keep track of?
I'm not really good at that in that sense. I'm just always trying to get better. I'm always trying to look for the next thing and keep moving. I guess I'm just driven to do better with the stuff I'm working on consistently.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I'm a simple man, right? Like the Grouch said, it's like got my family, get my dream job. All I need is that indoor hoop.
Yeah. Yeah, you're content.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Are you all right? So if you were given a choice to either be happy, content, rich, or famous, what would you choose?
Oh, I mean, you got to go with happiness, man.
Yeah.
Got to go with happiness. I
Yeah.
mean, what are you gonna, money is a means to an end, right? Money allows you to live the way you want to live. So if you're living the way you want to live and and you're happy, that's all there is to it,
Right.
Of course, the competitive side of you, of me, is always looking for the next thing. How can I take the next step with the company, with my career? How can I keep things moving and do bigger shows, have my clients, succeed on another level? And that's another thing about, owning a company is, everybody that works for the company, all the clients, you're responsible for them.
Right.
And if you're not killing it, then maybe they can't, they're not gonna have a job, right? Or they're not gonna be able to take care of their kids. So you gotta put that pressure on yourself. That drives me definitely every day. Make sure I take care of everybody that's a part of this.
Right. Why do you think? Because just based on the fact that you've seem like someone who's just a man of action, you just keep moving, you're moving forward and always trying to improve. Why do you think a lot of people are scared to take action?
I guess I think most people I know like that, it's they overthink things because they don't want to make the mistake.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, my philosophy on that is, I'm going to hit 0% of the balls I don't swing at.
Right.
Right. So, yeah, I might have a lot of strikeouts, but I'm going to get some home runs in there too.
Right.
So it's really just, being able to take the hits, and bounce back from those.
Right. Yeah, there's kind of just a theory of just take action and apologize later. I don't know exactly how they say it, but just, you make the mistakes and you don't sit around waiting for someone to tell you to take action.
Well, that's a little different from what I'm talking about. That's like ask for permission or beg for forgiveness.
That's what it is. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, and so there's like an underhandedness in that, and that's not what I'm saying at all. Like, that's like if I add an act to your show without telling you, and I'm like, I didn't know I was supposed to do that. What I'm saying is, like, if I see something cool, like, this is an example from right now, like a dog toy company that fits in with the brand of one of my clients.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm gonna call that dog toy company and say, hey, let me buy into this company. Let's make this happen.
Right.
I'm not gonna say, let's see how that goes for the next 3 years and keep an eye out on it. Like, if I buy into that company and it, in 3 years I may be looking back and be like, dude, why did you buy into a dog toy company? That was the stupidest shit ever. Well, I'd be like, okay, well, I won't buy into any more dog toy companies.
Right.
But I'd rather, if I see something good, I'd rather try for it right now, and then have messed up, taken the hit and bounce back, and that's like it is with the festivals. Like, you jump in real big, and either you got to lick your wounds for a while and build stuff back up, get your money game back up, or you hit it big and you're in a good position.
Right. Well, I think with the dog toy company example, I mean, you're still not going to your artist every time you have an idea for them, right? You're like, they have to trust that you're going to do what's in their best interest, in your opinion. So you might not be able to, like, every time go and be like, well, what do you think of this dog toy company? Are you cool with this?
Well, I mean, the way that I look at management is I do believe that before I'm making any, like, substantial decision, that you need to run it by your artist and get your artist's approval. Right. So something like buying into a company, absolutely. If I was doing it on behalf of a client, I would get their approval. The stuff that you don't want to bog your client down with, how much you're spending on small little things, or like booking hotels, or
right.
or which bus driver are you going to use. You don't want to if they're micromanaging all those things, it's not good for the creative process for making music. So they need to trust you to make those kind of decisions. Absolutely. But I still do believe that I work for the artist,
right?
And I'm not going to presume to make a decision on a real scale for them, because ultimately, even if it is a good decision money-wise, that might not be what they want to do with their careers.
Right.
So, really all I am, like, at the end of the day, all I really do is connect people that actually do stuff, right? Like,
yeah.
The people that run the club here, like, they have to run the show. They're dealing with the whole show. And the band is performing the whole show. So all I'm doing is connecting those two things. A band that needs a show, a club that has the space and the staff to run a show.
Right.
And so I definitely try to not assume to play God in any of those senses.
All right. So can you take us back to a time where you really hit rock bottom as an entrepreneur? The day that you're like, everything's falling apart and you were just like ready to quit and just walk out the door, and what did you do to turn things around?
Shoot, probably the first time I had to do taxes. Yeah, I mean, my company started with, $300, from a show we threw that our friends came to for $3, so no one's ever given us a loan. We haven't had any handouts like that, so it's all just been a slow grind, a slow build up. Mm-hmm. But I mean, we've consistently been in places where it's cash flow has been an issue throughout the course of building it. I'd say there was one show I did outside of San Luis Obispo, where I lost in the serious 5 figures on that show, I was like, ah, crap, how am I going to make payroll next week, you know? And,
Right.
And the answer to that was, you know, I just started making phone calls and found some business, you know. And the next few weeks sucked, but I got some new business, and, you know, that got through that time and built it back up, you know.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, in the music business, we're all in sales to an extent, you know. So if the money's not flowing, you just got to create more revenue streams. And how does that, you know, if I'm connecting people is the way I'm making money, I just got to start calling people,
Right.
you know, and then
That's
something
always there.
something will turn up.
Yeah. That's a good attitude. But it's also because of all of your years of work that you're able to make those calls, and people are going to pick up the phone, you know.
Well, you get a better rate of return, you know, after those years, but like, you know, you got to start somewhere, right?
That's true.
And there's still, like, I'm not, you know, nobody knows me in like the higher circles of big business, you know, outside of the touring sphere, like, you know, the record label side or the sync side, you know, only a few people in those worlds know me. So there's still, even though, yeah, I'm you know, I'm happy with where I'm at, there's still so many more areas for me to learn, so many more of those cold calls for me to make.
Right.
And so much more exciting stuff to try and fail at until I get to a good place with.
Right. And how important to you is learning that lesson of being able to bounce back from failure?
Oh yeah, I don't think you can be in the music business if you can't bounce back from failure.
Yeah.
I think if that's something that gets you down, I mean, unless it gets you down in a way that makes you hungrier to try again,
Right.
If you're not going to be able to accept failure, you're in the wrong business, you know, because 9 out of every 10 calls that I make, I get turned down, you know.
That's a great point.
So it's not even like it's worse than baseball, right? Like,
Yeah.
you know, if you're
batting 100.
yeah, if I'm batting 100, I'm having a good day.
Right. Like that's all you need to maybe cover your rent that you needed for that month. That one call.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I kind of have the same feeling. I mean, there's people that it took me. I probably had to pitch them 15 shows over 3 years until we finally found one that worked for them, that made any sense. And you know, but it's doing that over and over. It's that repetition, and then finally being like, okay, this guy's serious. Like, he keeps bringing legitimate acts. At some point, they're gonna bite. I mean, they're in the business to book shows, so.
Right. Yeah, the booking agent side is even more in that space.
Right. It's definitely a numbers game.
Yeah.
So do you have a few more minutes? I just kind of have I call it the encore. It's just quick questions.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's the worst part of your job that no one in their right mind would ever want to do?
Contracts.
Okay. What's the one tool or piece of equipment you use that you couldn't live without?
Gmail.
Easy. One word
Actually,
answers?
hold on.
Okay.
I'll give you another. Right inbox.
Right inbox.
Right inbox reminds me at a set period of time if somebody does not respond to my email.
And does that come with Gmail?
No,
or is
you got to
that
buy it for $5 a month. Best investment I ever made.
Okay.
It will also, I can pre-send something in advance through Gmail. And, you know, so basically that if I send something out, I've probably forgotten about it.
Right.
And so this will bring it back up. I'm like, oh, this guy never responded to me. Shit, let me bug him again.
Yeah. I might have to check that one out. There was another one I was using for a while, but I can't even remember the name.
There's a couple, I think.
Yeah. So, all right. So you're working with an artist who's kind of starting out. They have a $5,000 budget to release an album that was already mixed, mastered, and pressed. What do you do with the $5,000?
I'd probably do a small independent radio campaign targeting college radio and some of the CMJ charts. Assuming this was a hip hop record, I would also want to do some kind of press campaign on a limited level, and I would want to put probably everything left into digital ads at that point. I mean, 5,000. I mean, really, once the product is done, like, I think it's very hard to release a record probably without 15,000 right now, because you want to do some radio, you want to do some PR, you want to do some digital ads, you want to have some materials to support your release. I mean, touring doesn't cost anything, right? You're supposed to make some money, but I send out, I'll send out as many flyers as people want to pass out for every tour date that my client is on.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you can quickly go through that just by stretching every penny. And I'd probably, I'd hope that, if I only had a $5,000 budget, I'd hope that I had a friend that knew how to edit a music video for me.
Right.
So I could at least have
some favors.
one solid music video for the project to push behind.
And if you had a little extra money, would you hire a music video promoter? Would you hire someone online, like a PR person, to push that video?
Well, I'd probably hire a PR person to secure a premiere for that video.
Okay.
So that I had some sort of legitimate outlet that I could show. I could show people in the business, like, hey, Billboard premiered my video. I probably wouldn't waste my money if I had a limited budget on like tour press or really working it, but I just would want to have like a couple of solid press hits.
Right.
And I'd want a good radio person, just calling up the small stations so I could show some activity, have some new avenues there.
How do you feel about buying onto tours for your acts?
I would never do it personally.
Yeah.
If I need to buy on, then I'm not I shouldn't be on that tour. That's how I think of it. I mean, I'm not going to knock anyone's hustle, I know plenty of people from Canada, they got grants to do music, and that's a good way for them to use that grant and get out.
Right.
But I mean, I think if you're buying on, there's probably something better you could do with that money.
Okay. So knowing everything you know now, do you feel like following your passion is good advice?
Absolutely.
And what did your 21-year-old self do that you wouldn't be caught dead doing now?
Homework.
Okay. So if you went back to college,
Not going to happen.
you just would you drop out if kind of knowing what your career path, your trajectory would be?
I loved college. I loved learning just for learning.
Right.
But no, I mean, did college do anything for me for this job? No. But, I got to figure out who I was and what I wanted to do, I got to learn what I wanted to do with myself and values that were important to me through school. So I had an amazing time at college, but it definitely didn't give me any tools for the specific job.
Right. So what did you think you couldn't live without, but now you realize wasn't so important to your life?
My ex? No.
We all go through those.
Yeah. I guess like a security blanket, it's like maybe back then I thought like you gotta have that safety net no matter what you're doing. And now I realize like there's no guarantees in life at all. And so why would I hedge my bets? I gotta be all in. I gotta roll the dice on every move, every day, And I feel like if I didn't roll the dice every day I wake up, that I wouldn't be anywhere near where I am.
Yeah. Do you think it takes a special type of person to be with someone like you? I'm just saying, like, a lot of women wouldn't be comfortable with those bets.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, my wife, luckily for me, we started going out when I was already doing this.
Right.
So she kind of knew the drill.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I mean, I miss holidays. I forget occasions. I'm on tour. Like she's dealing with my daughter and all sorts of stuff, and the house and this and all that.
Right.
Like it definitely is not for everybody.
Yeah. Okay. When we go back to the mistake thing, is there a mistake that you learned the most from? Did you think of anything, or is there anything that pops out?
Well, I guess the mistake I learned the most from was thinking I wanted to be a booking agent and going to work at Paradigm. I mean, it wasn't me. and I learned more. I learned who was who, how things actually work, who's making things happen. I learned about the blueprint of the live music business,
Right.
how you have to move one piece here to how that moves something over here, and the different plates they're spinning to make tours happen, and the packaging behind those tours, and who's going to go where, and the routes, and how you juggle everything to make it all work at the end of the day.
Right.
And if I hadn't mistakenly thought that being a booking agent was what I wanted to do, I never would have learned all that stuff and figured out what I actually wanted to do.
So it still led to something positive.
Absolutely. Of course,
So-
I had to cry myself to sleep at night after those 18-hour days, but whatever.
Yeah. What was the atmosphere like there? Was there a lot of high expectations?
Yeah, it's it's throwing stuff. It's staplers at your head. It's like the movie Swimming with Sharks.
Right.
Yeah,
Sounds fun.
not fun, but great experience.
Okay, so if you had to start again without your network, but knowing everything you know now, what would you do to start earning a living within 30 days?
I'd probably call every talent buying office, be it for a festival or for a club, and try to get an internship with a talent buyer.
Uh-huh.
I'd go work for someone for free in the booking office, because then you're where the deal's being made, and even if you're not the one making the deal, you're becoming familiar with those people, and hopefully with the assistants on the other end that are gonna be the next people doing this, right?
Right. Okay, if an evil dictator took over the world and banned all art, but they allowed each person to keep one album and one book, what would you choose?
Are we talking about Donald Trump?
That could happen.
Yeah. One album and one book?
Yeah.
Well, the book I would keep would be anything by Philip K. Dick. Either The Man in the High Castle or Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep. Kind of like science fiction stuff, and made into a lot of movies.
Uh-huh.
Because it's all about like mind expansion and stuff, and it just lets you it let me think outside of the box.
Right.
And in terms of the album, that's a really tough question, man. I have so many that I hold, dear to me. I want to try and not be biased because my mind instantly jumps to my own clients.
Yeah. It's like choosing one kid over another.
I would say Tracy Chapman. I would go to an early Tracy Chapman tape. I think there's something about her voice and her message that kind of has transcended time, and if we were living under a dictator, I think that's something, that message would be something I would need to hear to keep myself going.
Yeah, that's great. Not expected, but that's a good answer. So you've known me for a few years now, so I just want to get your honest opinion. What's the one thing I should do to see significant growth in my business in the next year?
Get lucky. I mean, you got the hard work, so you got to find somebody that's. I'd say you need to find somebody that's going to turn a corner, because in hip hop, if you hit something, you can get big real quick, right?
Right.
And I'd say when you have that chance, when that right guy comes up, drop everything else and run with that. Go all in on that one guy when you know that's it.
Right.
My partner Igor, was working with Macklemore in the early times, and he told me, he said, we should consider dropping everything and running with this guy. I was like, you're crazy, man.
Right.
Come on.
Was this before Zach was involved?
Previous to Zach,
Yeah.
And Zach did that,
Yeah, he did.
He went all in, and that's what you got to do.
Right.
And I tried to take that approach with Stick Figure myself, and with the Catalyst for that matter. It was an unknown, so
Yeah.
to just really, if you find that thing, that guy that's just about to bubble and you believe in it, because we all have worked with acts just to pay the bills. We may like them as artists, but we
Right.
work with them to pay the bills.
Right.
And if you find somebody that's different than that you believe in, it might hurt your pocketbook for a little bit because you might not be able to pay the attention to some of those acts that are paying the bills.
Right.
But if you don't go all in with that person and they become the next thing, you're going to lose it to a bigger shop. Both of us, we're independents, so we face that trouble every day.
But what do you do to maintain that client if you build them up from, say, $100 a night act to even to a $3,000 a night act, and the bigger agencies come calling or the bigger management companies come calling? What do you do to maintain that relationship and make sure that they stay loyal to you and the work you've done?
Well, you can never know that they will stay loyal, but you hope if you picked someone that would be right. But I mean, if you're there every day, like those bigger shops, they're not going to pay that level of attention. And if you're hitting them up, if you're constantly pushing the agenda, and you're making things happen, I've seen it so many times where people have kept the agent or manager, and even if they would say, hey, I want to go to a bigger company, have better opportunities, but I want you to come over there with me,
Right.
so that might happen. You got to be ready for that. But I think if you're on everything, if there's no reason, they don't have any reason to go except just the allure of it because you're just consistently on everything. Like those guys at most big shops are not going to check college calendars necessarily to see if there's a college football game that day, and it might take the money out of the market. Sorry, one second.
Yeah.
I already forgot the question.
I forgot to. We can move on. You got a call, so yeah, we'll just move on. So what excites you most about your life right now?
Professionally, I would say new business. I've been really lucky that somebody's stepped up to run the company, the nuts and bolts of running the company, and I can just focus on fun new things where I get to keep learning, new festivals, new clubs, new levels of doing management right for existing clients. I don't want new management clients, just want to do a better job at that and learn new areas like publishing, stuff like that. Personally, I'm having a second kid in January, so
Congratulations.
thank you. So that's very exciting and scary, but
Yeah.
that's it for me though. I'm done too.
Yeah. I think 2 is the right number.
Yeah.
So if you could send a 140 character tweet that everyone in the world would see, what would it say?
Keep going to see live music.
That helps you out.
Sure does.
And where can people find you online?
Ineffablemusic.com, INEFFABLE music.com, or the venues, catalystclub.com, mystictheater.com, levitatemusicfestival.com, stickfiguremusic.com, bunch of
If
places.
they go to Ineffable's site, they can pretty much get to everywhere, right? That'll navigate them.
Absolutely.
All right, cool. Well, thanks so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Eric.
Up in the bar in the Catalyst.
Yeah, it's about showtime right now.
All right.